I had just returned from a year of anthropological fieldwork in Uzbekistan, in the former Soviet Union, and was looking forward to settling back into a quiet graduate student life, writing my dissertation in Bloomington, Indiana. The first moment that I realized that my life was not going to be as quiet and normal as I expected was when my housemate took a job as a stripper. Not to be outdone, I decide I need to go buy some sexy clothes. And I found myself in the men's section at Sears department store. It, being the 1990s, I was, of course, looking at turtlenecks. And as I pondered the existential question of whether to buy one black turtleneck or two, nearby I overhear two confused voices speaking in Russian. And as I listened more closely, I heard that they were struggling over how to understand the English language clothing tags. And so I was reminded of how much I already missed speaking Russian, so I stepped forward and offered my translation services. Suddenly, I was surrounded by a group of thick-necked, beefy guys speaking at me in Russian all at once. And my initial shock melted away when one of them, a big hairy guy with a t-shirt that read, "Georgian makes better lover," holds up a polo shirt and says, and asks, "Larg, значит, большой или маленький?" Does large mean big or small? So I competently translated it as large means большой, large means large. And he thanked me. He said his name was Gogi, and that they were a team of Georgian and Ukrainian wrestlers who were there to meet with the Indiana University team. So they ended up buying quite a few items, loving the cheap Sears prices, and I shepherded them to the checkout counter where translating throughout. And the store manager was so grateful that he gave me a $50 gift certificate. And I reckon that'll buy you a lot of turtlenecks. So Gogi says to me, "We are going to meet with American team at Bob. Why don't you join us?" And I said, "I don't know if I can," stalling for time because I was wondering what on earth would I have to say to these guys. And then I decide, well, this would be a way to extend the adventures of my field work right here in Bloomington. And also I could pay forward some of the amazing hospitality that I received when I was in the field. So we meet up at Kilroy Sports Bar on Bloomington's main drag. And the Americans introduced them to the happy hour special, the vodka Jello shots. After a few shots, Gogi is already starting to affectionately refer to me as Davidka. And then he's, "Davidka, this is no way to drink vodka." And I say, I know, I said apologetically, "You need to drink it straight with dark bread or with a pickle." He said, "Davidka, forget about jelly shots. This is, what about girls?" And he looks as he ogles around all the options around the bar from under his furry brows. And then I say, having noticed that he was had been a bit forward with the female wait staff, I said, "Gogi, this is not Georgia. An aggressive approach isn't going to get you very far here." And I was worried that he was going to get in trouble or harass somebody, and I also wanted to spare me the awkwardness of having to translate a full intercultural courtship. So he says, "David, what are we going to do?" So then I have to puzzle this out. What's our next step of hospitality? And I say, okay, I'm from here and have a car. I speak English and Russian, and my housemate is a new dancer. So I said, listen, guys, why don't we go? My housemate works at a strip club. Why don't we go there? And so they were excited about that. But let's pause for a moment here. You might all be wondering how a bookish PhD student ends up with a housemate who dances at a girly bar called Night Moves. And well, Shada, that's her stage name, was an Indiana University student who had just come back from a year in Cairo studying Arabic. She wanted to go visit her sister in Europe and didn't have the money. And what faster way is there to make money than to jiggle your jugs for a few $100 a night slipped into your G-string? So, according to her, so most of the wrestlers decide they're going to go back to the motel, but Gogi and a Ukrainian named Maxim were all in. They were ready for some real night moves. But then I remembered, and Maxime said in response to my proposal, "Da, klass," which is Russian for "totally, dude." But then I remember that Shada had explicitly asked me not to go there on a night when she's working. But fortunately, lucky for me, she isn't working that night. So we're at this club, and Gogi and Maxime are thoroughly enjoying the show. But as they get more excited, it's clear that they're starting to want something more. And unlike in the former Soviet Union, where money trumps rules, these guys were in this club. The house rules were against these kinds of setting up any kind of sexual liaisons that had to be arranged off-site, and I was not going to go there. I did not want to become Bloomington, Indiana's first Russian translator pimp. So at this point, I'm thinking, none of this is working out. These guys are just not satisfied no matter what I do. And at some point, Gogi says, "What about some action?" And Maxime, his arm draped over Gogi's shoulders, drunkenly chimes in, "Yeah, like in the movie Pretty Woman." And I say, "Look, guys, Bloomington is a small town. There's no Julia Roberts here." And I'm thinking, these guys are no Richard Gere. But then it occurs to me, Bloomington might be a small town, but Indianapolis is only 45 minutes away. So off we go, Gogi, Maxime, and I, driving in the car, speeding towards the big city. And we arrive in Indianapolis. It's late at night. We're driving around these dark streets. There are no clubs. There are no sex workers on the street. And I decide to turn to them and just say, "Look, let's call it a night and go home." And as I turn to them, I notice that they both passed out. Probably from jet lag or the spiked Jell-O, I don't know. But I take a deep sigh of relief, and we head back to Bloomington. And I drop them off at their motel, and that's the last I see of them. And on my way back home, I'm reflecting on the night's events, and I think, what the hell was I thinking? And I was just thinking about how I seem to have been on hospitality overdrive, and I tried hard to please them, and I tried too hard, in fact, to make America what they imagined it was. So I should have just play to my real strengths. I'm not sure what those are in those circumstances, but what I do know is that pimping is not one of them.